and welcome to our next adventure. Join us as we board the Silver Sea Silver Spirit for 28 days as we travel from Lisbon, Portugal to Copenhagen, Denmark. Silver Sea strung 2 complete trips together. The first part of our combined trip would go from Lisbon to 3 stops in Spain, continuing on to France, and ending up in the United Kingdom. In the second segment, we make a few stops in the UK before moving over to the Republic of Ireland for 2 stops, and then on to several stops in Scotland before finishing our trip in Denmark. I will not be repeating this rather long-winded introduction in subsequent videos. And just a quick heads up, I will be doing something a little different this time, where I will be rating the different excursions as we take them. But let's get started, as is proper, with part 1, where we will embark in Lisbon, Portugal, spend a day at sea, and then call on the ports of La Coruna and Gijon, Spain. This time we purchased the trip through our travel agent and opted for port-to-port travel. Meaning, of course, that we arranged our own transfers and air. We were dropped off at the airport by our friend, where we had a chance to visit the Admiral's Club, have a cup of coffee, before trading that cup of coffee for our flight to Philadelphia. We had a long layover in Philadelphia, so we once more headed to the Admiral's Club, in this case, the new flagship lounge in Philadelphia. Interestingly, the food in the flagship lounge was pretty darn good. Here's a cauliflower and mushroom soup with salmon roe that was delicious. We sampled a bit of everything, and then it was on to our plane for our overnight flight to Lisbon, Portugal. But not before a photo stop at the Lego Liberty Bell. Well, the next morning, we were in Lisbon, Portugal. I had prearranged my transfer to the cruise port with Black Lane limousine service. The driver was on time, and we were picked up outside after navigating the thoroughly confusing Lisbon International Airport. Our driver dropped us off here, the baggage room for the Silver Spirit. We were able to, thankfully, drop off our luggage, and then we were turned loose by the friendly luggage staff, who told us the check-in people would not arrive until around 11 to 11:30. With that update and unencumbered by luggage, we were able to wander around the area, checking out the 2 other cruise ships in port, a small expedition ship from Atlas, and a much larger vessel, the Royal Caribbean Independence of the Seas. We returned to the cruise terminal around 11 o'clock and were told that the embarkation staff was just setting up. We were allowed past security after a short wait and had a seat with a few fellow early birds in a waiting area. When we were allowed through, embarkation was efficient and quickly done. A few steps up the gangway, receiving our welcome glass of champagne, and we were officially on board well ahead of our scheduled 2 to 3 o'clock embarkation time. The suites were not ready, so we wandered about the ship, and then we hung out near the pool bar and had our first BBC of the trip. That's a Banana Bailey's Colada, a drink similar to a pina colada but using a fresh banana colada mix and a Bailey's Irish cream instead of rum. They announced that our suites were ready, so we made our way to 502. We started to unpack, and then we checked out the veranda and found it was a partially obstructed view, something we were not used to when traveling on Silver Sea. We immediately complained to our butler, Dennis, and our room steward, Ange. While the room itself was fine, this was going to be our home for the next 4 weeks, and we were very unhappy with the view from the veranda. They told us they would tell the housekeeping manager, Christoph, and see if there was anything they could do. We changed out of our travel clothes for dinner later that evening and met them in the hallway once more, where we were told we would be moved to Suite 511. We told them if it was all right, we would make that move after we returned from dinner. I had made an early reservation at La Terrazza for our first night on board. La Terrazza is the breakfast and lunch buffet venue that morphs into an Italian eatery in the evening. Check out our upcoming dining and drinking guide for more on La Terraza as this series progresses. We finished off the evening and dinner with dessert and finding her new favorite in the Casata Siciliana. We took a few moments to watch the Atlas vessel sail away before heading back to our room. We were met once more by Ange and Dennis telling us that they had already moved everything to 511. Using our new key card, we found that the view from the veranda was just fine, and the more centrally located 511 was great. Once we finished our unpacking, it was time for our sail away, so we proceeded to the top deck to watch Lisbon recede into the distance. During the sail away, we took a moment to visit with Barry at the Pizzeria Spaccanapoli. After a bit more fooling around, it was time to hit the sack and get ready for the next day, which was a day at sea. Our first day at sea, and it was formal optional night. We early got into the habit of checking the chronicles, which is the timeline for everything happening on board. Instead of attending the captain's welcome reception, we were invited to a special cocktail reception from Distinctive Voyages. As a perk from our travel agent, we were to receive a special excursion in Bilbao. So we attended this reception to get more information on what that excursion would entail. Following that, and of course, it was dinner time. Dinner tonight would be at Atlantide. Check out our upcoming dining and drinking guide for more on Atlantide and the other restaurants aboard the Silver Spirit. After dinner and a bit more carousing around, it was time for bed and get ready for our first port of call, La Coruna, Spain. La Coruna, a city of about 245,000, is an historic city located on the twisty Galician coastline. After a beautiful sail into La Coruna, we docked within easy walking distance of the city and the winding famous promenade that hugs the rugged coastline. Our excursion for the day, scenic La Coruna, would be in the afternoon. So we took the morning to do a little exercise in the workout center, then walked the stairs up to the Arts Cafe on deck 8 for a nicely made cappuccino and a almond biscotti. Our excursion today would be about 2 hours in length, minimal activity, as it was one of the dreaded panorama bus tours where you just drive around on a bus and they talk about the buildings that you just whiz by. We did make 2 stops, however. The first was a far too short stop at Spain's best example of the world-famous Pillars of Hercules, lighthouses built by the Romans, still standing and watching over the waves almost 2,000 years after it was built. Now, we were told that we should not try to get up to the lighthouse as we did not have time. We only had 20 minutes. However, we thought that was pretty lame, so we walked up there to get an up-close view of the lighthouse and to look out over the waters it protects. As it turns out, you could walk from the bus stop to the tower in about 6 minutes. That gave us a few minutes to wander around and take pictures, and then head back down and check out the art, like this Viking. And she was enamored with this fat guy. Wait a minute, which fat guy was that? We hopped back on the bus and continued on past this prison that is now a canvas for graffiti artists until we made a scenic stop across the bay, once more looking at the Pillar of Hercules from a different angle. While this was an interesting viewpoint, we were supposed to continue up the hill to a much more and much higher scenic lookout. But back on the bus we went, and back to the ship without making any more stops. Now, this was an included excursion, so we didn't pay anything for it additional, so value was good. The rest of it was rather meh. So, was it worth my time? Well, since it was an included excursion, yeah, probably. Would I be upset if I actually paid the $99 per person advertised price? Yes, I probably would be. And would I recommend it to a friend? Well, only with certain reservations. After returning to the dock, we just turned around without boarding and walked directly to a nearby park in the La Coruna Coastal Promenade. We spent about 45 minutes on this very pleasant walk and then headed back to the ship. Once back on board, we headed up to the pool deck and the pool bar for not a glass of champagne, but BBC number 2. We kept dinner very informal that night and walked one deck up to Spaccanapoli. Spaccanapoli is the wonderful pizzeria. Check out our upcoming dining and drinking guide for more on Spaccanapoli. There's no dessert to speak of at Spaccanapoli, so we headed down to deck 8 for a little cheese sampler and a few cookies. After dinner and dessert, we watched the sail away from La Coruna, passing by the Royal Caribbean Independence of the Seas that had followed us from Lisbon. From the Arts Cafe on deck 8, it was up one to the Panorama Lounge, where we indulged in her favorite new drink, raspberry and rosé, and my favorite standby, a bourbon old-fashioned. From there, it was off to the Venetian Lounge for headliner Jesse Hamilton Jr., an absolutely marvelous entertainer and singer. Time for bed and to get ready for our next port of call, Gijon, Spain. We started our day with a climb up the stairs for our favorite coffee at the Arts Cafe, before heading out for our 10 o'clock excursion, Snapshot Gijon. We started out at the Mirador de la Provincia for a look at what used to be a naval training center. And here is the training ship. This, like a good part of Europe, has been hijacked by the graffiti artist, but it did afford wonderful overlook views and views back into the city. Here's an actual training book. cruise and the graffiti, they had this odd piece of art standing guard over the coastline looking for all the world like an alien. Next stop, Universidad Labor. Built between 1946 and 1955, this is the largest stone or brick building in Spain. It was originally conceived and built as a school for teaching orphans, and today is a multi-use facility. It is certainly a grand building and holds a church that was never used as a church, but is now an exhibit center for art and is home to a university. Our tour guide shared lots of good information about the building, past and present.
So it was never used as a church. So it's empty. If you go inside, it's empty. So nowadays they use it just for exhibitions, even though it has 3 beds.
We were supposed to visit the gardens, but the rain started falling and cut this visit and our trip short. So how would we rate this excursion? Well, much as the excursion in La Coruna, it had potential, but fell far short of being of what I would consider a winner. Disappointingly, we missed our stop in the Fisherman's Quarter, which very well may have salvaged this entire excursion. Heading back to the ship, we decided on a late lunch at the Japanese restaurant Seishin. Seishin is open for lunch at no additional charge, and dinner for a charge on the Silver Spirit of $40 per head, and is reservation only for dinner, open seating at lunch. Not much in the way of dessert at Seishin, so we headed upstairs to La Terraza and the buffet to grab dessert from the large offering upstairs. After perusing the art and wondering about the ship some more, we debated whether we should go out on the shuttle to Gijon and found that we were a bit too late and short of time for that endeavor. But soon enough it was time for dinner, and dinner tonight would be at Indochine. Check out our upcoming dining and drinking guide for more on Indochine and the rest of the restaurants and bars on the Silver Spirit. And after dinner drink and catching a bit of a show, one more photo op, and it was time for bed. As the sun sank low, we got ready for our next port of call, Bilbao, Spain. Well, thank you for watching. Please do me a solid and like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new videos as they drop. The rest of this trip will be presented in 7 more parts, with a separate Silver Spirit ship tour and dining and drink guide, as well as a video on what went right and what went wrong, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this particular voyage. Thank you for watching, and as always, safe and happy travels from T's Cruise and Travel Muse.